Hey guys, Shanda here from This Devoted Life. I am an 8-year homeschool mom, so this is our 8th year of homeschooling. And last year we made a switch from a gentle feast to the Alveary. So in a previous video, I talked about what the catalyst was for us making that switch and the reasoning behind our decision to switch from a gentle feast to the Alveary. So if you want to know the why behind it, I'll link that video in the description below. But this video today is kind of an update on, are we still loving it? What do we like about it? What are some things that maybe could be improved? And what is just my overall thought since we switched? Are we still going to be continuing it next year? And I'll just give you the answer to that. Absolutely, we are. All right, before I dive into what I am loving about it and the things that we maybe didn't use or maybe could be better, I wanted just to talk about registration. So registration opens February 1st. So between February 1st and March 31st, because the Alveary is 10 years old this upcoming year, they decided to throw in a bunch of freebies. So you are getting all of the recordings for the 2024 conference. So you're getting the digital recordings of those so you can listen to the conference that they did this past year, which I was so bummed that I missed. It looked amazing, and I am for sure going to the one in 2025 down in St. Simon's Island, Georgia. So if you are interested in that, that's something that looks amazing, and I'll try to link that as well below. But yeah, you get all of the 2024 conference recordings, so that's a bonus. And like I said, that's if you register between February 1st and March 31st. You also get a membership to their Natural History Club, which that one has intrigued me. I am not currently a member, but I'm really excited for that one because I plan on registering pretty much on February 1st, and I'm going to enjoy being a part of that as well. They also are giving 3 digital monographs, and they're doing a $50% off. They have a new virtual masterclass from the Charlotte Mason Institute that they are doing, and you can get $50 off of that as well if that is something that you are interested in. So I'm going to say right now, one of the negatives for me with Alveary, and this is probably the only big negative that I have seen with Alveary, is that when you register in February, you actually aren't getting your lesson plans for several months. They will give you like a book list to where you can start purchasing your books, but you're not seeing lesson plans until I think it was June this year. I'm going to have to double check that, but this past year, I think it was June. I will say I have heard from a friend who's been using it literally from the very beginning that they didn't even get their lesson plans until like July. So we were getting them a little bit sooner than that. So that is the one negative about the Alveary. But I think after going through 20 weeks of this, I've realized why you're not getting the lesson plans until later in the year. And that is because the Alveary likes to have your input on what is going well. So like literally 2 or 3 months ago, I got an email from the Alveary that asked, what are you enjoying about Alveary? What could we be doing better? What are some changes that you would like to see made? And I know that because they have this huge, robust panel of people who are passionate about the subjects that they are writing, they then take your suggestions and they try to implement something the next year. So I have been watching the Alveary for the last 7 years. When I first started seeing it, someone let me log in and just look at their back end so that they could see, or I could see what it looked like. And I was just like, my mind was so overwhelmed. It was a giant spreadsheet that you had to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that. So I ended up going a different route than jumping in with the Alveary our first year. So that's kind of why it's been fun, because I've been following it now for 7 years and seeing that each year the Alveary makes changes. They're not, some are a little bigger, some are a little smaller, but they take your suggestions and they implement them and try to give us what we need. The biggest one that they made for this school year was they did Syllabird, which is an online lesson planner, and they literally have all of the courses uploaded to this online lesson plan, which I'm going to do a detailed video about Syllabird here in the near future. And you can import 36 weeks of lesson plans into this online planner, and it does everything for you. So all of these pages that I have sitting here, this is what my kids are doing this week. I print them out every week from Syllabird, and it has all of our lesson plans right on here. So I'm going to try to let you see what that looks like. So like this is for my son, and it has his dictation, science, geography, language arts, math, penmanship, world history, and written narration. So that was just Monday's lesson plan right there. And it has it all at my fingertips to where I can see exactly what he needs to do. If there are any links, they're all in the back in a QR code, and you can just scan those, and it'll take you right to the link that you need in order to show him whatever link it is. So you're not having to go dumpster diving for these links. They're all right there in the online lesson plans. And so I haven't even used the lesson plans not on Syllabird, because this has made it so streamlined. I recently was talking with another homeschool mom and part of a Charlotte Mason book club, and I had told her that I was using the Alveary, and she planned on using the Alveary, and she was they were doing some moves, so she wasn't jumping in until January. And she asked me if I was using Syllabird, and I said, yes, I highly recommend it. So I saw her last month, or I'm sorry, it's still January when I'm recording this, but I saw her just a couple weeks ago, I should say. And she told me that she was so thankful that I told her to go ahead and get Syllabird. She was like, I cannot believe how much easier it made scheduling out everything for my children for their lesson plans. So like I said, I'm going to try to do a deep dive onto that where I can actually show you how you're setting up your students and what the back end looks like on that, so that you can see how to schedule all of it. But that has been literally the reason that I made the switch, and I'm still loving it. It's fantastic. So you can reschedule everything, put in your breaks, like if you have holidays that you're taking. It's just very robust and good. So the only change that I would make with that is sometimes, like if things are shifting, sometimes they shift a little wonky. Like you can't just like schedule something and then go and change the start date. You actually have to unschedule it and then reschedule it. But that's only at the beginning of the school year. So once you have everything planned and like you know your exact start date and you've pre-filled everything, you can actually just click, like say we didn't get to history this week and it just was an off week, everyone was sick or whatever, you click on it and you hit reschedule, and then you can reschedule all the other lessons. So it'll literally just bump everything by a week, and you're not having to have all these weeks mixed up. You know exactly where you're at. So anyways, biggest plus for Alveary. I cannot say enough about Syllabird. It's been great for our school year. I'm going to try to just talk about the different courses that you can have for your children, how I'm kind of combining my kids, because I have a first grader, a third grader, and a sixth grader right now. And so what we have done is I actually created a student that I called Family Lessons. And so I put all of our lessons that I wanted to do together, which is like our morning routine. We do it, our morning time. It's what we do at breakfast. We sit and eat together. And while we're eating breakfast, I go through all of these lessons together. So I have the lesson plan sitting here, and I was just gonna kind of read through the ones that we are doing. And there is a lot. So with Alveary, you are getting so many courses. Like I don't even know how many different classes you can do with your student, but there are a lot of them, from like jump rope to folk dancing to just like a bunch of like random ones, or there's just like all of your beautiful and good and just rich lessons that you can do with your kids. So I'm just going to kind of go through what we do as a family. So we do jump rope, which is really fun. So they have jump rope rhymes. My husband actually laughed because we've been learning these jump rope rhymes. And at the beginning of the school year, I realized that a couple of my kids were not fantastic at jump roping. So they recently signed up for a local track class, or I don't even know, like recreational thing. And it's a conditioning class for a track that's going to be coming up in spring. And he came home, because my husband takes him to that, and he was like, our kids are really good at jump roping. He said, I was actually like impressed, because so many of the kids were kind of struggling with that. And I was like, it's literally because of Alveary, because they didn't even know. I mean, a couple of them were not fantastic jump ropers until this year. So jump roping, they learned jump roping rhymes. The Bible is probably my favorite thing that we have been doing this year. So they rotate Old Testament, New Testament, Old Testament, New Testament, and then church history. So that's 5 days worth of like your Bible time. And each Bible reading is, it's a good amount of, it's not too long of a passage. They give a leading question sometimes about like, what did we read last time? Sometimes it'll give just like a little something to help the kids remember, or a question to teach them how to think a little bit deeper. Like for instance, we were reading about Jacob and how he worked for his uncle Laban for 20 years. And Rachel, he had to work 14 years just to marry Rachel. But when he ended up leaving, like one of the questions that the Alveary had on here is, how is God remaining true to his covenant promises with Abraham's family through the life of Jacob? So it's getting the kids to think a little bit deeper than just narrate what this says. So that's throughout all of the Alveary lesson plans. And that was one of the pieces that I was missing, was sometimes like going through the day and listening to the kids narrate, and I just brain fog, whatever have you. Sometimes like I just can't think of a really good like thought-provoking question to maybe have my kids think more on the why behind something. And that's what they give in pretty much every lesson on here. I mean, it's not in every lesson every day, but for the most part, I mean, they're getting that consistently. So I loved that for the Old Testament, New Testament, and the church history. And then they had 2 commentaries that we're reading through. One is a walking tour of the Bible, and the other is Herein is Love. So one's for the Old Testament, one's for the New Testament. And I just really enjoy that there is a commentary along with it that seems to be very child appropriate, and they link everything for you so that you can see like exactly what you need to do. And so it just gives you the page numbers, and you just go to the commentary and you read through it. And we've really enjoyed it because I feel like it added a little bit of a depth to our Bible time. Not that you need to add to the Word of God, because I need to be very clear with that. But sometimes, like maybe as a homeschool parent, you just, maybe your own Bible knowledge is lacking, and you're just like, I just need a little help. Or maybe you want just to see what someone else thinks about that, and just, it gives us something more to talk about as a family when we're sitting around and doing our Bible time. The one thing that I was a little skeptical about was their recitations. So Alveary does several different recitations all at the same time throughout a term. So I'm still not sure if I'm totally sold on the way they do it, but I will say it has kept it fresh for the kids, because they're not doing the same recitation 5 days a week for 3 weeks. They are kind of rotating through, and they are longer passages. So we are not memorizing a large chunk of scripture like we used to do. So that is one thing where their recitations are an Old Testament and a New Testament passage each term. Plus they're doing like a small poem, like my son is doing Shakespeare, or the kids are doing like a Lear poem, and they're good. And then there's also like they do a hymn that you're reading through, but it's just like every day, and there's a psalm too. So they're kind of rotating through those throughout the term. So like for a couple weeks, you're rotating through 2 or 3 of those, and then they add in a couple more. And so I don't know if it's necessarily memorized by the end of a term, but with recitation, that's not the goal, is to memorize. But I would like to see maybe like a specific scripture passage that your child is intended to memorize, and it's something that they are going over daily. So maybe like a Bible memory would be something that I would like to add to, which that would be very easy for me to do on my own if I wanted to add that in. But I love my lesson plans, and so I think it would be fun if that was something that was actually a part of the Alveary as well. Poetry has been really good. The kids are going through the Animal Book of Poetry. The poems for that, that's for Form 1, they're just kind of more silly and fun, and the kids are enjoying it. Um, I don't, it's more of just like familiarizing them with it. But what's interesting is I sit there and I go, oh, these are kind of silly, whatever. But my kids now know what a haiku is. They also know like A, B, like poetry. I can't think of what the word is right now. I'm sorry, my brain is going blank right now. And so they're just learning different ways to write poetry, and it's actually been deeper than I realized it was going to be. So for Form 2, my son is going through some, I think it's called something about a hat. I don't know why I just told the death of a hat. Sorry, I couldn't remember what the name of it was. And that has been cool because it's kind of working its way through different time periods of poetry. And right now we've been reading a couple poems from like Edgar Allan Poe, and they're very appropriate, which I know that Poe can be very dark, which this was not. So it's just kind of cool to see him exposed to just a very wide range of poetry. Let's see, what else are we doing together? So we're doing solfa together. Those have been fun. They're just audio recordings that Alveary already has for you. The kids listen to it. They're learning about crescendo and decrescendo and about forte and a piano and staccato and allegro. So they've been learning all of that, and that's just like for a level 1 solfa. So that's been a lot of fun. They have musical games, which they've been really enjoying. So we've been doing, let's see, actually I have it right here. Over in the Meadow is just a song that they have been learning. And so that's part of the musical games. Spanish, we are still really enjoying Spanish. The one thing that I'm not entirely sure about is I don't know how well my kids are actually speaking it. I feel like they are learning how to understand it when being spoken to, but actually being able to formulate the sentences themselves might be a little lacking. And I'm trying to figure out what it is with that balance. Like, is it good right now that they're just learning how to understand it? Or do they need a little something more where they're learning more of like conversational Spanish? Because really they're doing picture study. So they're looking at a picture and they're being taught different sentences that they can talk about that picture. They're also being taught different vocabulary throughout the picture, like la casa and la cocina and like abuela and abuelo. So they are learning those things. But I don't know if it's necessarily that they're really picking up on conversational Spanish. And I'm trying, like I said, I'm trying to figure that one out still. So that's picture study. They also have, actually this has been so fun, they're doing the Bremerton Musician. And they are learning that in Spanish. They can't speak it, but it gets read to them every week, and I'm reading some of it to them, and they're able to interpret it to me from Spanish to English, and they're learning different words that way. I think the repetition of rereading that story every week and adding on to it week by week, they are learning a lot of vocabulary, and they are learning how to piece together some sentences and whatnot. The hymns, I've enjoyed the hymn selection. I like that they give you multiple versions to the song. With the music that Alveary does, it's really neat to see how they kind of tie things in. So it's not, you're not just singing the hymn every week. They give you different ways to sing it, different songs to sing. They give you questions like, if you had to pick one verse or line that strikes you the most, what would it be? So it even gets them thinking about the content of the hymn that you are singing. So the hymns have been fantastic. Fairy tales have been fun. We've been reading Tales from Grimm, and we're also reading American Tall Tales. So the kids have been enjoying those. Those are just fun. They have playground rhymes and songs. Those ones are a hit every single time we do it. They just enjoy doing that. So we're doing Pass the Shoe, and it's like you sit in a circle, and so it just kind of gets them doing things together. So they sit in a circle and you literally pass the shoe around, but you have to keep it in time to the music. So not only are they learning rhythm, but they're just learning a fun game to do together. Let's see here, what else are we doing? Art. love the art. We chose to do level 3 art this year, and they have a lot of videos and links and just kind of walk you through how to do different things. Right now the kids are learning about monochromatic and how to mix their own secondary and tertiary colors, and just giving them guidance in creating their own monochromatic paintings. Folk songs has been really fun. We've liked that. Right now we're actually learning a French folk song. I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but it's Sur le pont d'Avignon. And it's so cute to hear the kids singing in French. But anyways, they have been enjoying that. We've also been learning in a folk song, Jubilate Deo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is a Latin song. And today the kids were learning how to sing in a round. We probably spent 25 minutes learning how to sing in a round, because it's really hard to sing your line when someone else is singing the exact same line, but a couple beats behind. So they've been doing that. But once again, I love that they go deep into more than just surface level of learning the song. They're teaching you behind it. So like today we actually read Psalm 100, because Jubilate Deo is pulled from Psalm 101. And so we read through Psalm 100, and it was like, now that you know the background for this song, can you sing it with joy? Picture study has been good. They do a picture study every other week, and we're doing Botticelli right now, or Botticelli. And so you look at a painting and you kind of go through all of, looking at it together and talking about the things that you notice. But then the next week, they have you just from memory describe the painting. And sometimes they will tell you to do it in like a line drawing, or do it with like chalk pastels or something, or they'll just tell you to do it aloud. So they tell you how to do that in your lesson plans. Let's see here. What else do we got? Composer study. That one has been one that really surprised me in how much I actually really liked it. So in years past, I've always thought of composer study as studying one composer and just getting to really know the music of one person. So rather than do that, Alveary has chosen to teach you more about a genre of music. So in term 1, we learned about like Inuit throat singing. We also learned about droning and drone music, and different instruments that create the droning music. And just, it's been really interesting. Like my son discovered that he really loves the lute and the oud, which I had never even heard of the oud prior to the composer study in this. So they've been learning about different instruments from like times gone by. And so my son is convinced that he wants to play the lute. I told him he probably should learn to play the guitar first, because I don't even know who could teach him how to play the lute, but he does love that. So then you have music appreciation, which is a form 1, and they've been going through like the Carnival of Animals, and they did Peter and the Wolf, and learned in term 1 about all different kinds of instruments and whatever. So that's been another fun one that we've been doing together. Sloyd is one of those that I chose to add into our morning time as well, because if we're not doing it as a family in our morning time, we're probably not getting it to it, and that's one that I always put on the back burner. So those are that's just our morning time, and that's just the things that we're doing together as a family. So I'm going to kind of walk through quickly what we're doing for our core subjects as well. So for my first grader, and I guess I'll start with first grade, she doesn't have a ton of readings. I probably would have liked to have seen maybe one more day of history, because there's only one day of history for a first grader. Now, when they get into second grade, there are 2 days of history, but I feel like in first grade, she probably could have handled more, but at the same time, I understand that it is, for most Charlotte Mason children, their first year of formal schooling, and so keeping the lessons really short is what they are going for, and just kind of almost like slowly immersing them into the art of narrating back what they have heard, and sitting still and listening to, I guess necessarily you don't have to sit still, but sitting and listening, or wobble board, or whatever they're doing, listening to their readings. Geography has been really fun. Like today, we went outside and we created a compass on our driveway with the directions of north, south, east, and west. And I taught my daughter how to use a compass and how the needle always points north and how you spin the dial and whatnot. She does natural history with the Christian Liberty Nature Readers. So that was what she's been going through. So she's been reading about those things, the animals in that book. Her general science, I feel like maybe could be more. A lot of times they're having them just, which once again, it's first grade, but she just sits for 10 minutes and watches out the window and observes what she can see. And then tells me about what she notices about the changing seasons, any animals that she saw, just whatever she observed. So like today she told me, today is not windy, it's sunny. I saw a squirrel hopping in the snow, it left tracks. I didn't see a deer, but I did see the deer tracks in our backyard. I'm trying to think whatever. Oh, and she also told me that it was not a cloudy day. So those were just the observations that she had from today when she was sitting and doing that. Geography, like I said, is great. I think we're reading, or it's elementary geography that I'm doing with her this year. And so we've been going through one of Charlotte Mason's books for that. The history that she is doing, they're good picture book. She's learning about Native Americans and just some of their customs and in what their life was like. And whatnot. So that was her. For math, I am not using Alveary's recommendations. So Alveary does not include math, but they do give a recommendation. We choose to use The Good and the Beautiful for kindergarten through third grade. I use The Good and the Beautiful, so she's using that. And language arts, I use The Good and the Beautiful as well. So I am not doing a Charlotte Mason approach to language arts, though the Alveary does offer lesson plans for language arts in teaching reading and whatnot. So that's her stuff. For my third grader, we are doing, I love this, we are reading Pilgrim's Progress together, which that one starts in second grade, so I'm actually backed her up to second grade for that. Because in third grade, you're actually reading the second volume. So that's what the beauty of this is you can actually pivot if you need to. So like I imported second grade for her because I wanted her to read that book before going into the continuation of the Pilgrim's Progress with his wife. Geography has been really good. She's going through cross-country road trip. And so she's been enjoying that. And I love how they are doing it. So she's creating her own map. She's working her way through the different, like right now they had just gotten out of California because it's a family that's driving cross-country. And so it's been talking about just different biomes basically. So she's been learning about the desert. She's been learning about the forest, like the redwood forest of California, that type of thing. And so that's been great. She's also been learning how to draw maps, and she's made several maps of her own this year, which has been cool. Natural history for her is also a Christian Liberty Nature Reader, and that has been great. So it's just the third one in the series of that. Let's see here. History has been really good. The one thing that I love about the Alveary's history is that they incorporate a lot of map work. So whatever you are reading about, they're having you look up the river. Like right now she's reading about the lost colony of Roanoke. And so she looked up the Roanoke River. She looked up the Chesapeake Bay. And so and what's cool about the lesson plans is they literally tell you, it says U.S. Atlas, page 54. So it tells you which book to open up and to look at what page, and then says find this. So you know it's going to be on the page because it's literally the one that they have. History is fantastic because, once again, they give you good thought-provoking questions, ones that you maybe wouldn't think to ask, but someone who is just passionate about the subject does. General science has been really good for her. She's reading currently Buzztail and Leaper. She's just started Leaper today. She had been, in the Christian Liberty Nature Reader, she'd been reading about several owls. So one of her lessons for science was to dissect an owl pellet. So she did that and just had a blast going through that. And the things it's just little things that I have really liked because they link a sheet that you can download that shows you what bones you're looking at while dissecting an owl pellet. So it's all just right there at your fingertip. I didn't have to go looking for it. It was right there. She's also reading Wonder Book for Boys and Girls, which is just a really fun book. I'm not even going to really explain that too much, but once again, for math, she's doing The Good and the Beautiful, and for language arts, she's doing The Good and the Beautiful as well. She's a little bit of my struggling reader, and so we tried a Charlotte Mason approach with her to begin with, but what I learned with her is she needed a lot of heavy repetition, and she needed heavy phonics in order to learn how to read. And so The Good and the Beautiful fit that bill, and my first grader is now the third child that I've taught to read using The Good and the Beautiful. So it's familiar to our family, and it just works. Like that's what we have used. I would love to say that I could switch to a Charlotte Mason way of doing it, but so far it has worked for them. I did pivot with my sixth grader last year, so he would have been fifth grade. For language arts for him, I did end up switching to master books because The Good and the Beautiful just became way too intense for a boy who was not a natural writer, didn't enjoy writing. The lessons were far too long, and it was really just robbing any joy of learning how to write well. And what I have found, I was not great about doing dictation with him because he was a resistant writer. And this year I was like, you know what, I think he's ready. So we started dictation, and it has been awesome for him. So he has a passage that he reads, and the Alveary provides that for you. So he has a book that has his copy work and his recitation pieces, or not recitation, copy work and dictation pieces already picked for him. So he opens up to, like, week 20 is this week. He opens up to that, and he studies it. I have him do 5 days. So he studies it for 4, and on the 5th day, I choose a portion of whatever passage he's been studying, and I dictate it to him, and he has to write it out. So it causes him to study an entire passage. He then circles all of the words in it that he doesn't know how to spell. He practices spelling them. He looks at punctuation. He looks at commas and semicolons and whatnot. He looks at what is capitalized, what's not. And his writing this year has absolutely skyrocketed. I cannot even begin to tell you how much better his writing is than what it was last year. So that has been amazing. So dictation is great. Like I said, copywork for all of the kids. They give you your copywork passages. Those copywork passages are pulled directly from books that they are currently reading for school. Geography for him this year is he's been reading Marco Polo, and so he has a map that he's been tracing the trips that Marco Polo went on. He's done a lot of map work with that and just learning. Maybe this isn't part of Marco Polo, but he's been learning all of the European countries currently. And so he's amazing at geography. He has a very visual memory, so he knows all of the little teeny tiny European countries that I don't even know where they are, but he's gotten really good at identifying those. And they try to make things hands-on, so he even is, like, right now at the end of a term doing a map with clay of one of the countries that he learned about. Science was one of the reasons that we made the switch, and we are still loving it, like loving it. So he is doing Mission to Pluto this term, and he is enjoying that. It was one that he picked that he wanted to do. It's actually one of the 5th grade sciences, general science, and but because we were jumping in his 6th grade, I wanted him to still experience some of the other units that they had. So he did the microscope, and it used the book Hidden Worlds last term, and he's using Mission to Pluto this term. So last term was so much fun because he was, like, looking at stuff under the microscope. This term he's, like, studying outer space, and right now his, like, end of term project that he's working on is creating a structure of the solar system. And so it said you could do it however you want, but it gave some suggestions. He literally came to me with a piece of paper all diagrammed out of how he wanted to create this out of PVC and styrofoam balls and whatnot, and I just was like, holy cow, yeah, we're going to try to make this happen, because he had a vision and he was trying to do it. So it's been really great. They, like I said, again, all of the links are in this as well. So like today, he watched a video that talked about New Horizons, which was what was launched going out to Pluto and is still circling Pluto and sending back information about that. You can actually see where it's at in orbit and whatnot, which is really cool. His history has been really great. He's learning about Gutenberg right now. He kind of bounces around between several different spines, or I shouldn't say several. There's a couple spines that he's using. One is Story of Civilization, and I don't know why I just lost the other one. But then he's also deep diving. So like right now he's learning about Gutenberg and the printing press. So that's what he's learning about right now. It tells him to do a written narration every day. General Lit, I read through his books over the summer and I really enjoyed the ones that they chose. Last term he read A Single Shard, and this term he's reading The Last Map Maker, which that's a longer book and it'll probably take him through the end of the school year to do that one. He's doing Story of Arithmetic. I don't know, I could probably take or leave that one, but the readings are so insanely short for that. Like his lesson is like 5, maybe 10 minutes total. So that's been good. And he does do like some map work with that, and it just teaches him kind of about like where numbers came from and whatnot. Oh, actually, here's the other spine for history. America, Our Stories is the one that he's also doing. Once again, lots of map work with that. Written narration, current events. We are doing World Watch, and he loves World Watch. I turned it on the other day with my husband near, and he was like, what is he watching? Like, I want to watch this. So it's like good for kids to watch, but it goes into like some really important things that are going on around the world. But their motto is, I'm going to totally butcher it, but basically whatever is going on in the world, the word of the God or word of the Lord stands. So it always brings it back to the word of God, and just, even though like these things are happening, what can we take from it? Science labs, that's the other thing. Like I said, he's creating a model for the solar system right now. The lab work has been really cool. He created a rocket out of Alka-Seltzer tabs earlier in the semester or the term, and just enjoyed that. Let's see here, what else? How does he have going on? Ancient Histories, which is the story of civilization that I mentioned. He's doing keyboarding, so he's learning to type. He uses typing.com for that, and he has to do 20 minutes of that or 15 minutes of that twice a week. He's lit and mythology. Right now he's reading I, Wande Pareja, which was another fantastic read. I've really enjoyed most of the books that they have done. Turtle Island was one that they had last term, and I could have taken or leaving that one. I don't know if I necessarily would have considered that a really living book, but it was one that my son enjoyed. One thing that I have noticed, because we are studying Native Americans, is some of the pictures in some of the books, maybe you might have like a topless lady, and so just, I'm throwing that out there just so that you can be aware that maybe if there are a bunch of pictures, maybe you need to look through and maybe cover something if you are not wanting your child to see that. Let's see, natural history. That is the other one that we've really enjoyed. So right now, this term, he's going through the wolves and moose of Isle Royale, which is cool because Isle Royale is in Michigan. It is the only national park that we have in Michigan, but it's talking about the ecosystem and how wolves were introduced to Isle Royale to help keep the moose population in balance, and how they are managing that, I guess. So that's been a really cool one to read through. We've never done Plutarch, so we're doing a Plutarch beginner track. It's great because Plutarch is like speaking Greek to me. And so they give me just some talking points, a little bit of guidance as we're reading through small sections of Plutarch and just kind of getting into that. And my son has been pulling some really neat observations from reading about Publicola, and just his character and maybe what he could have done differently or what he should have done, and just the bravery and whatever of the people that it's talking about. So that's been cool. And then Shakespeare. Okay. That was a lot of stuff, right? So you're probably going, okay, that's 3 students. How long does this take her in our day? Because we do all of that I just went through. That was like an entire week's worth of stuff that we do, and we do math and language arts every day. Typical day for us, we start between 8:30 and 9, and we are done between 12 and 1 every day. And that's literally doing everything from our morning time through all of our core lessons. Even my 6th grader, he's done by no later than 1, even though his readings are significantly longer. But I will say he does get up early at like 6:30, and he gets his math and language arts done before the girls ever even come downstairs to start the day. So he took that on himself to kind of start early. So yeah, overall, we have loved the Alveary. Like I said, I plan on signing up again right at the beginning of February for next year. One of the downsides to the Alveary is they are a little more pricey, but as you can see from like what I was talking through, you get far more than just a book list. You are getting the support that you need in order to succeed when implementing a Charlotte Mason education. I also love that you can tell from the lesson plans that the people who are writing these are passionate about the subject that they are making a lesson plan for. The book choices have been phenomenal. The extra links have been something that has added really nicely to our school day. And just overall, like I said, I've been really pleased. I don't have a ton of negative to say about the Alveary. Maybe a book choice here and there, maybe just the price of it, but and then the only other negative would be when they release the lesson plans, which isn't until like June or something like that, because I like to plan ahead, but they do give you the book list. Speaking of book list, if you are interested in seeing the book list that they have out right now, they are giving a book preview over on their YouTube channel, so you can see some of the books that they've chosen for each form. And yeah, you can kind of get a sampling of what books they're using and why they chose those particular books. You're not going to get everything, but they're gonna let you in on what they're doing. It would be great like if they gave out a full book list, but then it's like they're kind of giving away all of the work that they've been doing. So if you are on the fence about using the Alveary, I highly recommend it. I do have a link that I will put in the description below that gives you $25 off. And so if you use that and then use the code that goes with it, you'll get $25 off of your membership for the Alveary. So anyways, I hope this was helpful to you. It is a very long video, so I apologize, but I hope that being able to see what we have done and just hearing me talk about each lesson that I've been doing with my kids just gives you a really good insight into what we've been liking, maybe some things that we haven't been doing. I mean, I have not been doing nature walks. I'm just going to be totally honest. That was just another one where I was like, I can't add in one more thing. And there are probably other things that I have not added in as well. So with a Charlotte Mason education, you don't have to implement all of it. You can pick and choose what you want your family to focus on. And sometimes you are in a season of life where you just maybe can't do something because you have a newborn and you just don't have the bandwidth to do Sloyd or whatever. So just choose what you can do and just enjoy the feast that you are able to do with your family. So anyways, I hope that this was helpful to you. And like I said, check out the links below and please be sure to like and subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this.